her lip. I wish Nick wasn't going to be there. I could handle this if it was just me and Dad. Her hair had that obstreperous look it always got when she was upset. Her narrow shoulders were hunched up so far they were practically touching her ears. Ray was glad he was here, and not on the road, with his mobile turning into a fiery little brick in his hand while he tried to talk her down off the ceiling. Birthdays were hard for Claire, but he'd get her through this. No matter where he was, he always did. They swung off the Milltown Road, clipping a curb, and he watched the familiar, neat rows of the semi-Ds slip past. Hawthorne Crescent, Hawthorne Close, Hawthorne Lane. Nothing had changed. There was the low wall by the bus stop where he used to wait for Claire after school, and the narrow lane that led across a football field to the railway tracks where they used to smoke. And there was Lennon's corner shop, where Ray had once been caught by beaky Lennon sneaking a tin of beans he'd taken from his mother's cupboard onto a shelf. Reverse shoplifting. Jesus, he hadn't thought of that for years. A couple of bikes were flung on the grass beneath the chestnut tree on the green in front of the row of shops, and two figures were starfished on the grass where he and Claire used to lie on hot summer days when there was nothing to do. Nostalgia, sharp as a fishhook, caught in his throat. Nearly 20 years had flashed past. How had that happened? He flipped the sun visor down and peered into the speckled mirror. There were two faint lines running from the side of his nose to the corners of his mouth, but he looked pretty good for someone who'd only had 4 hours' sleep. Claire pulled over and switched the engine off, and they sat listening to a dog barking and the distant whine of a lawnmower. The sound of the suburbs, Ray thought. He looked across the road, and there was his old house. He half expected to see his father's Corolla in the drive, but his folks had moved to Malaga 15 years ago. You could have warned me that there were Dora the Explorer curtains in my bedroom window. He glanced at Claire. Not even a smile. You want me to come in with you? She shook her head and opened the door, but stayed where she was, zipping her small gold locket back and forth on its chain and staring into her lap. I've got a new one for you. Ray drummed on the dashboard with the broken wipers and sang the chorus of Addicted to Love, changing the words to You're a duck with a glove. Ha ha, Claire said very quietly. That's got to be worth 3 has. Ha, she whispered. Claire closed the front door and let the atmosphere of the house settle round her. The trailing ivy on the porch had swallowed up all the June sunshine, and the narrow hall was murky. She always felt sorry for the house. It had been cheated of the life it should have had. Years of sadness and silence seemed to have soaked into the peeling paint and the faded carpets. Almost nothing had been changed since her mother had opened this door for the last time. Her dad was standing at the kitchen window. Claire had given him plenty of new shirts over the years, but today he was wearing the old blue one with frayed cuffs. His long, thinning grey hair was caught under the collar. There was a tiny piece of tissue stuck to his chin. He must have cut himself shaving. Dad? He didn't move. Dad? Sorry, I was listening to something on the radio. He pulled an earphone out of his ear. He smiled, and his grey eyes met hers for a moment, and then dipped away, and she felt a low ache under her ribs. The spreading bruise of guilt. Do you want some tea? He held up his cup. I just made some. Nick will be waiting. We should go. She took his mug. It was full, but stone cold. I've got Ray with me. Ray, he said vaguely, as if he was having trouble placing him. Sometimes Claire worried that her dad was losing his memory. Then she reminded herself that he'd been like this for most of her life. There, but not really there.